Good morning. It's the 17th of October 2012, a lovely Wednesday morning, and you've decided to begin your morning with Good Morning Sri Lanka on MTV Sports, and I'm glad that you're joining us. Let's take a look at the headlines and the stories that's been happening in and around Sri Lanka and the world. Starting off with the front page, the Daily Mirror titles it as Mid-Sea Drama. 5 fishermen have been thrown overboard, and the asylum seekers and the skipper has tried to flee to Australia in trawler. 5 Sri Lankan fishermen were reported to have been attacked with sharp weapons, bound and thrown overboard by some unidentified men who had been assisted by the skipper of a multi-day fishing trawler. Now, goes on to say that 2 people were rescued, but it is feared that the other 3 fishermen might have drowned, though the Navy was continuing the search for them. Now, that's very unfortunate news. As you can see, the pictures on the screen show one of the rescued fishermen undergoing treatment at the Karapite Teaching Hospital. Story goes on to say that 2 of the fishermen were rescued, but then again, the rest of the fishermen, the 3 others, may have drowned. Moving on to some of the local politics, this is regarding the UNP and the intention of some of its members to participate in the recent rally. Let UMPs attend rally, Karu tells Ranil. Former United National Party UMP deputy leader and MP Karu Jayasuriya had requested party leader Ranil Wickremesinghe to permit members to actively participate in preventing the country from moving towards a dictatorship. And as a response to that, we have here Tissa to Karu, don't bring party into disrepute. The UMP lashed out at its Gampa district MP yesterday, asking him not to bring the party to disrepute. And the UMP General Secretary Tissa Attanayaka said that there would not be a future for Mr. Jayasuriya in the party if he continues like this. Furthermore, the UMP Puttalam district MP Paritha Rangbandara said yesterday that he would participate in this rally. I'll attend rally even if UMP hangs me. So there we go, a bit of a hot development within the United National Party, the main opposition party of the country, with relation to participating in the recent rally. And moving on to yet another interesting story about some of the policy changes. Now, the Centre for Policy Alternatives yesterday filed an application for special determination of the Supreme Court against the appropriation bill of 28 September, lamenting that the said bill would result in the abdication and or alienation of the full control powers of the Parliament over public finance. Now, CPA goes on to say, and its Executive Director, Dr. Pakiswadi Sarunmuthu, said that through the case that was filed, is seeking that certain clauses of the said bill are inconsistent with the Constitution and cannot be enacted into law except if approved by the people. So there we go. CPA files case in SC against 2013 appropriation bill. Moving on with some local news, the former President, the Honorable Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, lashes out and says that there is shameless corruption and nepotism. Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, who ruled Sri Lanka for 11 years, has lashed out at what she sees as the naked demonstration of the abuse of power. The shameless indulgence in corruption and nepotism, the violation of human rights and the rule of law in Sri Lanka today. Now, there's an interesting cartoon here which has titled today as being the Global Hand Washing Day, and saying that political crime has taken its toll. Speaking at a crisis period when the Cold War between the government and the judiciary has reached volatile proportions, Mr. Kumaratunga said the right to freedom was composed of the right to think freely, to talk and express one's thoughts freely, and to practice one's beliefs. So there we go. The former president says that there is shameless corruption and nepotism. So that's a look at some of the local stories. Moving on to some international news. Angela Merkel thinks David Cameron and the British are Statler and Waldorf of Europe. Now, this is a very interesting, similarity that she is trying to draw upon. The German Chancellor apparently likens the Prime Minister to the grumpy Muppets who constantly grumbles from the sidelines. The unflattering comparison made in Germany's respected news magazine comes as Mr. Cameron faces a growing backlash over his approach to Europe. Now, as you can see on the corner of the screen, these are the two Muppets that she's trying to draw a similarity, and Angela Merkel thinks that David Cameron and the British are the Statler and Waldorf who are complaining from the sidelines. There we go. That's a bit of news from the EU. And also going on, EU holds out hope of talks with Iran after new sanctions. Now, the European Union held out hopes on Tuesday of returning to talks with Iran over its disputed nuclear drive, despite harsh criticisms in Tehran of the bloc's new package of sanctions. Now, it goes on to say, "We are not doing sanctions for the sake of sanctions," said a spokesman for EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton, when asked whether the tough new measures might snarl efforts to return to the negotiation table. So there we go. That's some of the international news that has been happening in and around. And moving on to some sports news. Starting off with the Lance Armstrong saga. Now, we heard that there were some discrepancies in the tests that were taken, and the World Anti-Doping, the US Anti-Doping Agency rather, has now released what is called conclusive and undeniable proof this week that Lance Armstrong is guilty of doping. And the story goes on to say, if Lance Armstrong is guilty, why isn't he going to jail? Now, people are asking, saying that Lance Armstrong joins a long list of professional athletes who have been accused of or have admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs. And the question here is, why isn't he going to jail? So that's a very debatable question in my opinion, because I don't know how far this is a criminal offense for him to go to jail, but definitely not good news for all those Lance Armstrong fans. I mean, he had a brilliant career. He made a brilliant comeback as well, even after taking a break. But then again, it's apparently the US Anti-Doping Agency has released undeniable proof that he's taken performance-enhancing drugs. Moving on to some cricket news. Sachin Tendulkar has been granted an Australian honour. Now, Sachin Tendulkar, as we all know, is one of the greatest cricketers and the greatest batsman the world has ever seen. And Australia has decided to honour this great batsman. And India's record-breaking batsman Sachin Tendulkar is to be conferred with membership of the Order of Australia, said the visiting Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Gillard, visiting on a 3-day state visit to India, told reporters that Tendulkar deserved this special honour because he was a very special cricketer, indeed. But then some of them say that he only achieved his greatest victory at the end of his career, where India managed to win the World Cup last year. But then again, Sachin Tendulkar, brilliant batsman, has been given an Australian honour. And with that, we will take a short commercial break, and when we are back, we will have a guest in the studio to talk to you about something that's been developing, something a bit about sports, a bit about entertainment, and how these two are merging up. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned in to Good Morning Sri Lanka.